Pregame.com.
Welcome back. He's Steven Nover. I'm Marco D'Angelo. In today's video, we're going to take a look at fantasy baseball. Now, fantasy sports has been growing in popularity by leaps and bounds. And I'm going to look at and talk with Steven, who happens to be a big fantasy guy. You play in some big leagues. The correlation between fantasy sports and actual sports handicapping. Now, I'm not the fantasy guy that you are, Well, I've got fantasies, but that's a different segment video. But for fantasy sports, I have to feel, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that of all the sports, you can play fantasy in all the sports out there. For baseball, it would be the most similar to actual sports handicapping than any of the other sports because, you're handicapping players. But in baseball, it's a team sport, but it's more of an individual matchup. It's pitcher versus hitter. That's where the whole play starts. Mm-hmm. Where, in football, you've got blocking, you've got, everything else. If the pitcher gets the ball by the hitter, there is no play. You know what I'm saying? So it's matchups. And I think that this sport, for a handicapper, fantasy would tie into that.
You are correct, sir.
Thank you. That's the second time today you said,
you're having a good day.
I'm having a good
You're
day.
having a good day. I've been doing some sort of fantasy baseball since the 80s, and I've been in full-fledged rotisserie leagues since the early 90s. And I found it to be instrumental in my baseball handicapping. And, it's a fun diversion, but it's also, the nitty-gritty of this. I'm in some deep rotisserie leagues, like a National League only. We just had ours this past Saturday night. Went 40 deep, 12 teams, 40-man rosters. So you really have to know the reserves and the setup guys. And I think it helps the handicapping a lot, Marco.
That's a great point where you talk about the setup guys in the reserves. In baseball, again, let's go back. Everything starts, the foundation is the pitcher.
Yes.
Once the starting pitcher leaves the game, it goes to the bullpen.
And they're leaving the game a lot earlier than in our day. They're leaving, they're pitching 6 innings.
Yeah, it's become plug and play. It's almost...
You better know who that 7th inning guy is. You better know who that 8th inning guy is. You better know who that 9th inning guy is.
And you better know how many times they've pitched in the last 3 or 4 days.
Exactly, if the closer is going to be available or not.
And that's why I get back to fantasy in baseball, handicapping. It's so much similar, and it comes down to decisions on, when you make decisions on players of who you're going to start and who you're going to sit that day, you might have, a guy, let's make an example. Okay, obviously, he's a big name, Pujols, he's a great hitter and everything else. But the guy he's pitching against that day, he might struggle against that guy. Mm-hmm. That's not a day to have your big gun in the lineup.
Well, that's, Pujols is always going to be in your lineup. But yeah, I see your point, though. That's another part of what really successful fantasy managers do is they study, who they know ahead, who's going to be the starting pitchers, and they look at their possible lineup possibilities and say, okay, who has a good history against this guy? And sometimes, you may find a guy that perception-wise you think, well, he's going to start automatically, but then you look and you see, wow, he's, 2 for 16 lifetime against this pitcher. So there's a decision to make.
Absolutely. And as fantasy sports grows, and I got to tell you, over the last 10 years, fantasy sports has just exploded.
Yeah.
And it's become, before, I think in the early days, it was just, something fun and, you did with your buddies and bragging rights or maybe, small amounts of money. Mm-hmm. This has become big business.
Yeah.
People are, they're actually, I don't want to use the word wagering because fantasy sports is legal all across the
Yeah.
the United States
You
playing.
can legally bet on fantasy sports, and you can't legally bet in most states
Well,
on
see,
sports betting.
The difference is you use the word bet for both, and fantasy doesn't use the
Okay,
word
all
bet.
right. Semantics, all right, all
But
right.
it's a game of skill,
Yes.
But
You get my point.
I get your point. It is a guy that's a big poker advocate. That's the argument for poker too.
Yeah.
Is that it's a game of skill.
Yeah.
So but one day the government will have everything the way it should be, and everything will be legal. So we'll get to that.
Well, will we
someday.
be alive when that happens?
Well, you got a couple of years on me. So I'm hoping we're both there, buddy. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's closer than it's ever been, and I think you'll see it with poker first. That'll be the first step, and then sports afterwards. Going back to fantasy sports has had its own evolution over the years, and I want to get, before I segue into where it's changed to, any tips you as a guy that plays fantasy a lot can give our viewers as far as things to look for, how to set up a team, and some little tricks of the trade. Don't give all your stuff away, because you're going to be competing against some of these guys.
Well, fortunately, we already had our auction, so I try to get a balanced team. A lot of it is the preparation, and then going to your auction or a draft. Auction, I think, is a lot more skillful. You got to manage money and keep in mind with players, and with the draft. You got to have like set tiers where you rank each player at his position, and then the positions are broken down into tiers. This helps me where, let's say you're doing a draft and you're in the middle and it's coming around to you, and this is your last guy at a certain position before there's a huge drop-off where maybe there's like 20 good outfielders still left, and maybe this is the last decent second baseman in this range. I would grab the second baseman, rather than, grab the outfielder. And
you'll bypass a bigger name to get a quality guy to plug a hole.
And another thing, Marco, is people base a lot of their decision-making on last year's statistics, or they'll get these fantasy magazines which have just proliferated. I think they're pretty much worthless because of their early deadlines. They come out, months ahead of time. It's just good for a reference point, maybe position eligibility to have at your fingertips to know. But as far as the information, I don't put any stock on that. You have to be on the internet getting the latest information. But back to my original point is the key is to be able to project with good information on what the guy's going to do this year. Last year's statistics are just a tool, but they're not the all what's going to happen. And guys, especially also in that age range of 26, 27, even 28, those are your breakout years where they usually have the best years of their career. A guy who has been putting up declining numbers, like Carlos Lee is a perfect example. He's in his mid to late 30s now, and his numbers have been going down every year. So if you take him, you're pretty much figuring on 15 to 18 homers. He's not going to hit you the 35 they did a few years ago. And big names like that maybe still have some respect that they shouldn't have, and there's a lot of young up-and-coming players that don't quite have the reputation yet, but project to maybe be really, really good, based on maybe second half statistics.
And again, to make a sports handicapping analogy, just like we do when we talk about games and we talk about line value, you want to get teams that are underpriced by public perception or go against teams that are overpriced by public perception. And that's exactly what you're saying with these players. If you're getting the guys on the rise before they're household names, you're getting them, if it's an auction league, you're getting them cheaper, and you're getting talent on the rise for less money, so you got more money to spend other places. And if you're able to see a guy that's overrated and you bypass on him, and somebody else buys him and overpays for him because of his name, that's going to hurt that guy's team because he's not going to have as much money in other spots. I have one angle that I'll throw at you if there's something that you look at. I know as far as handicapping I do. If I have a pitcher who's played his whole career in one league and gets traded in the offseason or signs as a free agent and switches league. Now, I know we have interleague play, but you still only face a couple teams a year during interleague play. when a pitcher switches leagues, I think that pitcher has a better chance of having a better year than he had last year, just because of the, not as familiar to the hitters in that league, especially early in the year.
Especially going from the American League to the National League. And you have a couple examples of that with Mark Burley and Gio Gonzalez. These are examples. That's, kind of proven true, especially, going, it'll be interesting to see how Jeremy Guthrie does. I personally stayed away from him, but, going from the Orioles where he's facing those great AL East teams all the time, now going into the NL West, playing at those, those West Coast ballparks that are so tough on hitters and, so
those are good points. Now, we're going to segue in here to the last part. Fantasy sports has always been season-long leagues. I mean, that's the way it started. And you pick your team, you make your moves, who you sit and who you play, and it's a season-long battle, and it gives you play for the whole year, and it's fun. But a lot of times, just like teams in sports, sometimes at the halfway point you're out of it. You lose interest, and you're stuck for the season. You don't got a shot at the your league title and the money, or however the structure is. There's a site out there that I think is really changing the way fantasy sports is being played. Instead of the season long, they have daily. Every day is a new day. You pick a new team every day, and it's a new contest. It starts that day. It ends that day. If let me specify, if there's a day that there's, I think, at least 4 games being played, so there's enough of a good player pool to to have it, and that's FanDuel.com, and they've partnered with Pregame. We're endorsing them, and they're offering their opening day contest, which is April 5th, the first full day of the baseball season, a free roll to all Pregame followers. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com and type in the promo code Pregame, and it will let you enter that contest for free. And they're going to be giving away $1,000 in prize money on that first contest, and they're going to pay 100 places deep. So you got a chance to go in, play for free, try the site, and check it out, and you got a chance to make some money. And it's a nice site. It's a it's a player salary cap league. You set your team for that day, and every player has a price tag, and you just have to stay under the salary cap for that day, and your team's legal, and it's a great concept. So want to invite all of our viewers to check it out. Just go to FanDuel.com and enter promo code Pregame, and you'll be able to pick up that opening day contest. Try it out. And I know a lot of the pregame guys, are going to be in there, so you can be competing against.
There's some good fantasy guys in the posting forums on fantasy baseball, and I've checked out FanDuel, and it's the nice thing is there's all different price ranges. You can kind of just get your feet wet a little bit at a small price. There's higher ones, so it should fit everybody's budget, and plus you can go head to head. Or you can go against 10 other people, which obviously there'd be a higher payout. And so there's a lot of choices. And I had tried it, more than a year ago. And I'm not that technically savvy, with the computer, so I had some trouble with it. But I was just at these big high-end fantasy drafts and auctions at the Bellagio, and Jeff from FanDuel was there, and I talked to him about it. He said, we've gotten a lot more user-friendly, and he was showing it to me where even I could figure it out. So, I think the average guy can figure it out if I can. And I think it's great. It's it's a lot of fun. It's a way to be involved, and not much money involved, or you can make it a lot of money. So it's fits a lot of budgets, and I definitely would give it an endorsement.
Well, go ahead and check it out. And, whenever you go to, if you like it, they have some nice sign-up bonuses after you try the free roll, where you can get some extra money in your account trying out FanDuel. But again, just go to FanDuel.com, promo code Pregame. You'll be able to play the April 5th opening day game, league, contest, whichever way you want to word it, for free. make some money with it. And talking, and I was met Jeff on Saturday, and super nice guy from FanDuel, and he was telling me some about big things that they've got going on, and they've got a contest where it's a 15-week contest, and it's every Friday. They're going to have a special one where if you enter that tournament and you're the winner that week, you'll be eligible for the grand tournament at the end of the 15-week competition, where they'll actually have it here in Vegas. They'll fly all of the 15 finalists out, and they'll go for one big prize pool, and they'll have details on the site about that. But it was a cool concept here at they'll put you up at the Palazzo and have the championship at Lugosi Stadium. And anybody that's ever been to Vegas, if you love sports bars and a concept that I've never seen anywhere else, check out Lugosi Stadium in Palazzo. It's really cool. And chance, prize like $100,000. So it's big money in fantasy sports. And
I'd really like to see fantasy sports succeed, for numerous reasons, not just because I love it and involved with it, but the perception always has been, Marco, with fantasy sports, as far as a crossover with sports bettors, is that they don't make good sports bettors. They're too small staked. But being at the Bellagio this weekend for these high-end ones, and I realize these are, these gentlemen that participate have money, but these were big contests. There was $10,000 entry fees for, $5,000, $2,500, and I think it's getting more and more to the point where this has not become, it's not a big deal at all. And I think hopefully it'll give an emphasis to show that, look, let's legalize sports betting. The sky's not going to fall or anything. It's just a way of entertainment and enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, and there's big leagues out there, and not to scare anybody off. For FanDuel, you can play for very small stakes into big tournaments. So there's everything there for you. So check it out. And like I said, I think that it is a good tool for sports betting because it helps you. It's part of the handicapping process, and it's a great crossover.
It gives you another opinion, a learned opinion on how to rate starting pitchers, because they have all these starting pitchers with different dollar ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of telling you if one guy's up here and another guy's there, well, who's the better pitcher? And some of these guys, you just can't go by one-loss records all the time.
Yeah, when the thing that's better on a daily league like that, for that type of information, is because as the season progresses, that a guy's value changes daily.
Yes.
Where when you're the league like you did and you did your draft for the season, it was based on, projection and what they did last year. If a guy, you could have a guy that's, a high-priced guy and he has arm problems all year, you're screwed. You paid the price for him. Where here you can move around, and a guy that over exceeds, his price is going to go up as the season goes on, and vice versa. So it's great. Check it out, and there's a thread in the forums that I started on it, and if you want to get in and talk some trash talk with some other guys, and get some challenges out there to the rest of the pregame community to get into the contest so you can talk some smack. Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Steven will be there in the contest, and you can beat up on Steven, Mr. Fantasy Guy. And, if you beat me, fantasy's not my game, so, don't pat yourself on the back too much. But if you beat him, you beat somebody. He's Steven Nova. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We'll be back this week. More videos. You can check everything out. Pregame.tv all week long. We'll get you covered. And baseball season starts this week on Thursday, full swing. We'll be ready for it. Excited about baseball. I know Steven is, and I know I am. Talk to you guys later this week.